Imagine stepping up to the tee box, right? It's a pristine Thursday morning. You take this massive swing and just absolutely obliterate the golf ball.
With a dream.
Right. A 350-yard drive, straight down the middle of the fairway. The crowd is going wild. And in, like, almost any other sport, overwhelming power gives you a distinct measurable advantage.
Yeah, usually.
But here is the paradox. At the specific tournament we are looking at today, that monster drive actually puts you at a mathematical disadvantage.
It really does. It's wild.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are thrilled you're joining us today because we have a singular mission. We are cracking the code of the 2026 Valero Texas Open running April 2nd through the 5th.
And, this is not just some casual glance at the field.
Yeah.
We've been running the numbers, looking at years of historical data, predictive models, and all the course analytics to figure out exactly what kind of player survives this specific test.
Because the Valero Texas Open, which is held at TPC San Antonio, specifically the Oaks course, what makes this event so fascinating for us and honestly incredibly valuable for you is that it's mathematically one of the most predictable events on the entire PGA Tour schedule.
It truly is an anomaly. I mean, in a sport known for wild variance and unpredictable Sundays, the data trends here are just stubbornly consistent.
Yeah.
Year after year, the exact same statistical profile just rises to the top of the leaderboard.
And the stakes are massive this week. We are talking about a $9.8 million purse plus 500 FedEx Cup points on the line. So our goal today is to take all this predictive data from our sources and hand you a massive edge.
Exactly.
Whether you are finalizing a fantasy golf lineup, placing a strategic bet, or honestly, if you just want to sound like an absolute golf analytics savant to your friends this weekend. Okay, let's unpack this. Tell us about the actual course layout. Why does the battlefield dictate who wins this thing?
Well, to understand who's going to win, you really have to understand the architecture of the trap they're walking into. TPC San Antonio was designed by Greg Norman, and it's a par 72 layout stretching out over 7,438 yards.
Which sounds huge. Like, on paper, any course over 7,400 yards sounds like a complete playground for the Bombers.
Right. You would assume the guys who hit it 350 yards off the tee would just dominate.
Right.
But Norman designed this track to heavily penalize that exact brute force mentality.
Wait, but if the course is that long, how does being a shorter hitter not leave you with, like, a massive 200-yard approach shot on every single hole? How does the math actually work out to penalize the big drivers?
It comes down to the physics of the environment and the geometry of the fairway. First off, you are dealing with the Texas wind.
Oh, right.
When you bomb a drive 350 yards, the ball is traveling incredibly fast, but it's also up in the air for a much longer time. That gives those heavy sweeping crosswinds way more time to grab the golf ball and push it off course.
That makes total sense.
And second, the architecture pinches the fairways right at that 300 to 320-yard landing zone. So the longer you hit it, the narrower your target becomes.
Oh.
Yeah, and if the wind takes your ball even slightly offline, you aren't just in the rough, you're in rocks, you're in cacti, and these completely unplayable native areas.
So the guy hitting a controlled, 280-yard drive is basically just...
Landing in a wider part of the fairway,
yes.
keeping the ball under the wind, and staying out of the hazards.
So it requires absolute precision over power.
Precisely. You cannot just bomb it and gouge it out of the rough here. In fact, driving distance is explicitly flagged in the historical data as a completely non-essential metric.
Okay, so because missing these tight fairways is so punishing, getting onto the greens safely from the fairway becomes the hardest part of the job. And that brings up the question of how we actually measure who is best at that.
Right.
And the data points to one specific metric as the ultimate predictor of success here, which is strokes gained approach, or SGAPR.
Yeah, if you only remember one acronym from this deep dive, please make it SGAPR. But for anyone who maybe glazes over when they hear sports statistics, let's actually define what strokes gained means.
Please do.
It simply measures a player's performance against the rest of the field on any given day. So if the average pro takes 3 shots to reach a specific green from the fairway, and a player does it in 2, he just gained 1 full stroke on the field.
And the data on this metric at TPC San Antonio is just staggering. Listen to this. 4 of the last 5 winners here gained 1.5 or more strokes per round on approach.
It's insane.
Let that sink in. They were beating the field average by a stroke and a half every single day, purely on their iron shots into the greens.
What's fascinating here is how deeply those approach numbers correlate to the last 5 winners.
Yeah.
I mean, it is almost mathematical law at this venue. Players who struggle with their approach play are practically impossible to back because they are constantly scrambling just to save par.
I always think of strokes gained approach like the bass player in a rock band.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like a 350-yard drive down the middle of the fairway is the lead singer. It's flashy, it gets all the camera time, the crowd roars. But the approach play, those precision iron shots from the fairway to 15 feet from the pin, that's the bass player.
Holding it all together.
Exactly. It rarely makes the highlight reel, but it's the foundational rhythm holding the entire performance together. But wait, let me challenge you on something real quick.
Sure.
I'm looking at another metric in our research document, which is strokes gained ball striking, or SGBS. Is that just a different name for the same thing? How does that fit in?
Well, it's related, but it's a broader lens.
Yeah.
So strokes gained ball striking is a combination metric. It takes your performance off the tee, so SGOTT, and combines it with your approach play, SGAPR.
Okay.
So ball striking is the total package of getting from the tee box to the green. But the data emphasizes that elite iron play is the really crucial half of that equation here. Strong ball strikers create significantly more birdie opportunity.
Right, they aren't scrambling.
Exactly. They aren't stressing over a bunker shot to save a score. They are continuously putting for birdie, which creates this incredible mental and mathematical consistency over 4 really grueling days.
Okay, so getting to the green reliably is the entry ticket. But how do these players actually convert that ticket into a victory? Because when we look at the historical data, it reveals 2 very distinct player pathways to actually lifting the trophy.
Yeah, they are fundamentally different philosophies of how to survive this course. We sort of categorize them as Path A and Path B.
Let's look at the numbers on recent winners because they perfectly illustrate this. You have Corey Connors winning in 2023, and he gained an absurd plus 2.385 strokes gained approach per round.
Incredible ball striking.
And then Akshay Bhatia in 2024 gained plus 2.057. Even the defending 2025 champion, Brian Harmon, gained plus 1.538 on approach.
So those guys highlight Path A, which we call the elite ball striker. This is your Corey Connors model. They just completely dominate from tee to green. They are hitting so many greens in regulation and hitting their irons so close to the pin that they require minimal putting effort to actually win.
Right.
In fact, when Corey Connors won the entire tournament in 2023, he gained a mere plus .094 strokes putting.
Wait, really? He won a full PGA Tour event with essentially field average putting. That sounds completely impossible.
I know, but it happens when your ball striking is historically good.
Yeah.
He didn't need to make 40-foot miracle putts because he was constantly hitting his irons to like 8 feet.
Wow.
Now, compare that to Path B, the short game specialist.
Yeah.
This is the pathway taken by Jordan Spieth when he won in 2021.
Okay, Spieth is a whole different animal.
Exactly. These players rely heavily on elite scrambling. So,
Yeah.
strokes gained around the green and incredible putting spikes to edge out the field. The data also points to Ryan Gerard, who was the runner-up in 2025. He contended largely because he gained nearly 2 full strokes putting per round, which sort of masked his weaker ball striking.
Okay, I have to push back on this, though. There is that age-old golf cliche ingrained in everyone's head, right? Drive for show, putt for dough.
Of course.
If putting is what actually puts the ball in the hole, why is the source document explicitly calling putting a, quote, secondary factor here? Why are we prioritizing Path A, the ball strikers, over Path B, the hot putters?
Wait.
Isn't the putter the great equalizer?
It is an equalizer for a single round, absolutely.
Yeah.
But over 4 days, it's a statistical trap. It really comes down to variance versus stability. Putting is just incredibly volatile from day to day.
Especially on these greens.
Yes. The greens at TPC San Antonio have complex runoff areas and really tricky grain. Relying on putting to win a tournament is like a hockey team relying on their goalie to make 50 spectacular saves every single night to win a playoff series.
Oh, man. That's a lot of pressure.
Right. Yes, a hot goalie can steal a game, but it's a highly volatile, unsustainable strategy compared to a team that just controls the puck the entire game.
I love that framing. So putting is a differentiator, not a predictor.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, building a fantasy lineup or a betting card around Path A, the elite ball strikers, is an investment in low-variance skills. Iron play is a repeatable skill.
You're investing in the fundamentals.
Exactly, not the lucky streaks.
Huh.
You want the guy who gives himself 20 solid birdie looks around, not the guy who has to sink massive sweeping putts just to keep his head above water.
That is the ultimate takeaway for you listening right now. Invest in stability. So, since we have established that the elite ball striker on Path A is the ultimate blueprint, Let's actually run the 2026 field through that exact statistical filter.
Let's do it.
Who passes the test this year?
Well, when you filter the entire field for elite iron play, low variance ball striking, and precision off the tee, a very clear top 10 list emerges from our model.
Sitting at absolute #1 in the data model is Colin Morikawa, which honestly makes perfect sense.
Oh, totally.
The guy essentially has a protractor built into his swing. His precision approach play makes him the flawless statistical fit for a course that demands you hit your spots.
Yeah, he's the gold standard for this.
And right behind him at #2 is Si-Woo Kim, who brings one of the most balanced profiles in the entire field. Strong off the tee and elite on approach.
And rounding out the top of that list, you see Ludwig Aberg at #3 and Keith Mitchell at #4.
Both huge talents.
Yeah, both of these guys bring elite off-the-tee presence, combined with strong par-4 scoring. And it's worth noting that while driving distance isn't essential, being highly accurate off the tee sets up those crucial approach shots perfectly. Then, you have Gary Woodland sitting at #6. He's a really fascinating case because he brings huge momentum, having just won on tour last week.
Riding the hot hand is always a massive factor, and the model also flags some guys with massive statistical upside further down the list. We've got Ryo Hisatsune at 7, Austin Smotherman at 8, and Smotherman actually ranks 2nd overall on tour in approach play right now, which is huge.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Nikolai Hodggaard is at 9, trending strongly with improving ball striking. But we have to talk about #10 on this list.
Jordan Spieth.
Jordan Spieth.
Yep.
How do we, or how should the listener, weigh a perfectly statistical fit like Morikawa against a guy like Spieth? I mean, Spieth has mixed stats coming in. His iron play can run hot and cold, but he has incredible course history and a past win here in 2021. Does course comfort override the math?
It is the ultimate tension in sports analytics, really. Spieth is the perfect example of why you have to blend pure model data with course history.
How so?
We talked about those tricky runoff areas around the undulating greens at TPC San Antonio. If you miss the green here, the ball just funnels down into these massive collection areas. Spieth's creativity, his imagination, and his generational short game give him a unique edge in those exact spots.
So he survives the course using Path B.
Exactly. He doesn't fit the strict, low-variance ball striker mold as flawlessly as Morikawa, but his comfort on this specific layout allows him to navigate the trouble. The math sets the baseline rule, prioritize ball strikers. But Spieth is the exception that proves the rule because his short game is so historically elite. Blending current form with course history makes players like Spieth very appealing, even if they aren't the mathematical baseline.
Okay, so the model highlights the obvious favorites, right? The big names that will be anchoring everyone's fantasy lineups. But where is the actual hidden value in the betting markets right now? It is time to look at the specific picks where the data uncovers huge value against the odds.
The research isolates two very specific official betting picks for the week, really focusing on players who perfectly fit the statistical model but are offering massive payouts.
Okay, pick #1 is Russell Henley, sitting at 12-1 odds each way. Real quick, for someone placing their first golf bet this weekend, each way essentially means you are splitting your bet, right?
Right. Half your stake goes on them to win the tournament outright, and the other half goes on them to finish in the top places, usually top 5 or top 8, depending on the sportsbook. It's basically a built-in insurance policy. If he doesn't win but finishes third, you still get a very nice return.
Perfect. So Henley at 12-1. I am looking at his profile, and he has amazing course history here. He finished solo 4th at the Valero Texas Open in 2024. But it's not just history. He has rock-solid early season form.
Yeah, he's been playing great.
5 top 25 finishes in his last 6 starts. That includes a tie for 6th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and a tie for 13th at the Players' Championship against literally the best fields in the world.
Henley is the exact archetype the model is hunting for. He sits inside the top 20 for this week's comprehensive stats analysis. He ticks every single box. He has the current form, he has the course fit, and he possesses that trademark precision and elite iron play that we have been hammering home all episode.
Yeah.
He is arguably playing the most complete golf of his career right now.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let's look at pick #2, Sudarshan Yelamaraju.
Yes.
He's going off at 35-1 odds each way. This guy is a 24-year-old rookie. He has never played TPC San Antonio in his life. 0 course history. But he is absolutely on fire.
Unbelievable form.
A tie for 17th at the Cognizant Classic, a massive tie for 5th at the Players, and a tie for 6th at the Houston Open just last week. He ranks 3rd overall on the PGA Tour in current form.
The contrast between these two picks is just brilliant. It perfectly encapsulates the two ways to find betting value.
It really does. Betting on Russell Henley is like buying a reliable blue chip index fund. You know the history, you know the steady returns, you know the variance is low.
Exactly.
But betting on Yellow is like investing in a highly specialized, high-growth tech startup. You don't have decades of data on him, but the current metrics are off the charts. He currently ranks 5th on tour in proximity to hole, which means he is hitting his irons closer to the pin than almost anyone else alive right now, and 19th in strokes gained, putting.
This raises an important question for you, the listener, as you finalize your strategy. Does a rookie's complete lack of course experience matter when his specialized skills so perfectly match the course's strict demands?
The model clearly thinks his velocity wins out.
It does. The data suggests that his elite current form and his precision iron play just completely override his lack of course history. TPC San Antonio asks a very specific question of a golfer. Can you hit your irons close in the wind?
And he can.
Yellow is answering that question better than almost anyone else in the field right now.
Yeah.
So at 35-1 odds, the mathematical value is simply undeniable.
It is the classic battle of historical stability versus current velocity. Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, pulling apart the mechanics of this tournament. Let's bring it all home. So what does this all mean for you?
Yeah, what's the bottom line?
If you are setting a lineup, placing a bet, or just watching the broadcast this weekend, remember the core philosophy of TPC San Antonio. This is fundamentally a second shot golf course.
Without a doubt. The fairway is just a runway. The approach shot is the actual flight.
Oh, I like that. The ultimate takeaway from all the data, all the physics of the win, and all the historical trends is to ignore the pure power hitters. Do not get blinded by the guys bombing at 350 yards because the course is actively working against them. Avoid players who rely on volatile putting spikes to save their rounds. You have to prioritize elite iron players, those ranking high in strokes gained approach, with incredibly stable tee to green games. Use these metrics to gain that edge over the market. Trust the low variance skills over the highlight reel moments.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, what is one final thought you want to leave everyone with? Something to ponder as they watch the action unfold.
It goes back to Greg Norman's original design philosophy for the Oaks course. He specifically engineered this layout to neutralize the bomber advantage. He heavily rewarded approach play precision and severely penalized inaccuracy off the tee.
Yeah.
As modern golfers continue to hit the ball further and further, essentially breaking traditional century-old course layouts with sheer distance and technology, it really makes you wonder, will we see more PGA Tour venues forced to adopt this exact TPC San Antonio architectural philosophy?
Oh, that's interesting.
Will tight fairways, forced layups, and severe penalties for distance become the only way to protect par in the modern era of golf?
Wow, is TPC San Antonio a quirky outlier, or is it actually the blueprint for the future of golf architecture? That is a fascinating question and definitely something to chew on as you watch the coverage this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you take this intelligence, trust the data, and find that perfect combination. Enjoy the 2026 Valero Texas Open, everyone.